Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Diriyah Biennale on behalf of the Diriyah Biennale Foundation. Tonight, very unexpectedly, as you all know, we have a very, very special guest. And I'm thrilled to be introducing him because I've been a fan for a very long time. And I figure if a little girl from Melbourne, Australia is a big fan, you probably are as well. So, without further ado, let me introduce السيد.
مرحبا. Hi everybody. This is going to be a mix between عربي وإنجليزي وشوي فرنسي if people understand French. Okay, so أنا اسمي السيد، فنان خط عربي ومنخلط الإنجليزي والعربي عشان مولود في باريس، أصلي من تونس. نحكي بالدرجة التونسية، ما ساعات العربية بتاعي مكسرة شوي عادي والله الدرجة يكفي. اوكي نمشوا. كلكم تحكوا مش فرنسي، انجليزي. ها انجليزي والله. اوكي وفرنسي لا. اوكي لو في واحد ما يفهمش ممكن يسأل اللي بجنبه. اوكي شكرا رنيم و all the team for having me here. Well, I'm super excited. I had a talk last minute, so بنحكي لكم على قوة الخط العربي، the power of Arabic script. وأنا كفنان I always say that art is a pretext. ونقول لكم تخيل واحد يضرب على بيتكم، على باب البيت، ويقول لكم please offer me a drink، وبعد tomorrow I will come back again, but this time for like a lunch. And after a few days or after a few weeks, I will say, he will tell you, like, I will go with you to your cousin's wedding. You will look at him and think that the guy is crazy, right? In this story, I am the crazy guy. So I often knock at people's house and tell them that I'm an artist and I would like to paint something in the neighborhood. And so the first day, they look at me like intrigued and they say, "Shmal hada, like Majnoun, what's wrong with him?" The second day, they start being curious. يحكوا معك, they speak with you. And then after a few days, like they give you like, I will say, a drink, and after a few days they open the door of their house and they invite you for lunch. And after within a few weeks actually, you get invited to the cousin's wedding. So this is a true story. You know, when people ask me what I love the most about what I do, I always respond with the same answer, which is the human experience. أنا التجربة الإنسانية. وكفنان وراي like التحدي الفني, like the artistic challenge is essential. But all these little stories that I come back with after each of my project is what I cherish the most. I collect moments. That's what I say. And I start having a great collection of moments. So actually today I'm here with you to share with you some of these moments. I have a small question for you first. Which of you today has judged somebody? Just like that. Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay. Only 4 people, huh? Okay. Okay. So I'm sure, like, as human beings, we always judge people. The way people speak. For example, me, like this Arab guy speaking English about قوة الخط العربي with a French accent. I'm sure you say, like, what's wrong with this guy? Or people, the way they dress, or maybe sometimes where they come from. So a few years ago, I wanted actually to explore the topic of perception, and question our misconception and judgment sometimes we have as society on community that we don't know. So I decided to go to the neighborhood of the Cairo garbage collector. There are a community of people, 70,000 people, mainly they're like a community of Coptic mainly, and they've been collecting the garbage of Cairo, and they've created the most powerful recycling system in the world. But still, because as the image is associated with trash, they're perceived as dirty, marginalized, and segregated. I'm just gonna drink a bit of water. Sorry. So I wanted to bring light on this community. So I decided to do this. So I decided to create a piece, an anamorphic piece. An anamorphic piece is لوحة فنية كبيرة or like a big art piece that you can only see from a vantage point, which is actually Muqattam mountain. So you have to go all the way to the top of a mountain to see the art piece. And the goal of the project, like as I said, was to question the level of misconception we have. You know, in every project that I do, at the beginning there is no real interaction with the people. They look at you in a weird way. Like I said, they say هذا مجنون ليش جاي عندنا. But slowly, you know, fast enough, the people they start getting interested. You know, and I remember the first house that we painted with my team was the house of Amu Ibrahim. Amu Ibrahim is a garbage collector. He's one of the most actually nice person that I've met. He was always smiling and singing, and I remember his daughters and his son actually they saved me from a bull that wanted to attack me from the fourth floor. They leave actually their animals in each floor of their building. بيستعملوا الحيوانات, you know, like to recycle the organic waste. So this time was a bull, but we also had pigs who were like eating the, you know, the rope, our security rope. You know, Amu Ibrahim used to always hang out with on his balcony when I was painting his building. And I remember he told me that he didn't go to the mountain for 10 years. He said that if he stopped working, who will stop the garbage? You know? But surprisingly, at the end of the project, he came to the mountain to look at the art piece, and he was actually surprised and super proud to see his house painted. And he said that the project was a project of peace and that he brought people together. Honestly, I didn't really understand what he meant at this time, but I think his perception, you know, toward the project, and also my perception and the perception of my team toward the community has changed. You know, all the garbage that actually everybody is disgusted by doesn't belong to them. You know, الزبالة مش بتاعهم, like the garbage doesn't belong to them. You know, they work out of it. You know, so هم مش عايشين في الزبالة, عايشين من الزبالة. You know, and they say that without them, I mean, هم في القاهرة بيسموهم الزبالين. هم يقولوا يا جماعة القاهرة هم الزبالين because الزبالة جاي من عندهم مش من هناك. You know, so the garbage is coming from Cairo, it's not coming from them. So they call the people of Cairo the Zabbalin, which is for me a bit ironical. So they work just out of the garbage. So I start questioning, you know, actually the point of the project. شو الهدف, you know, so it was yes about beautifying a place by bringing art to it, but it was also about switching perception and opening a dialogue about, you know, the connection we have with the communities that we don't know. So, you know, day after day, going on the Muqattam mountain, I used to stand like that and looking at the art piece, and I used to wonder what was actually the real symbol behind this art piece. And I realized that the real point of this is sometimes if you want to see the real face of somebody, you just need to change your angle. So this is it. Paolo, if we can show the video, please. I'm just going to show you a small video.
منطقة في واجدة كان أوحش بكثير من دلوقتي. كان المنطقة دي اسمها مش بس منطقة زبالين، اسمها المنطقة الزرايب.
Comment tu vas convaincre chaque personne de te laisser peindre sa maison? Parce qu'imagine, si tu as une seule personne qui dit non, en fait, tu peux pas finir l'œuvre.
احنا بسطاء بس تحت ما احنا شقيانين وبنشيل الزبالة وده فينا ناس كويسين ومحدش أحسن مننا.
Thank you. So actually, this art piece is gone, most of it. You know, like most of my work, and you know, I learn, you know, how to detach myself from my work. You know, back in the days, today I will say, like today I can work. I mean, I can have one of my art piece erased the same day. I won't be mad. But back in the days, I used to get mad like straight away. You know, but I think with age, I learned, you know, like how to detach myself, and actually the street doesn't belong to me, neither to my father. So, you know, so everybody's free to do it. You know, so I think that, you know, when you paint in the street, when you create artwork in the public space, it's made for the, you know, for the people to interact with it. And when I talk people, when I say people, I mean people, but also animals. For example, this one was in front of Dubai Opera in Dubai, and you have like a hamama, like two birds. They just put their nest inside one of my piece. Well, okay, I didn't know there was a video. Okay. There's a French writer called the French-Romanian writer called Eugène Ionesco. قال بالعربي كل ما هو فاني يبقى. أنا بنقول كل ما هو فاني يبقى في ذكريات. You know, only the ephemeral lasts in the memories. You know, I think for me art is just a pretext, you know, like to create memories, you know, memories with the people that I meet, with the community, you know, that I enter. And you know, yes, of course I create art, but it allows me, you know, like sometimes to value my culture, value my identity, value my language, you know. I feel that, you know, art managed to bring, you know, the young and the old together. And it also allows us to change our perception, you know, the way we look at people, the way we look at ourselves. And also, it helps us to bring new narrative, you know, and I think this is what I love the most in what I do, like bring new stories that we don't hear. No, I'm going fast, sorry. I'm wondering here, like, I'm sure like all of you knows the story of Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, easy, super easy. But does any of you know the story of Jamil Buthaina? Okay, please, who knows Jamil Buthaina? Let's make, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. Okay, not too much. Romeo and Juliet, how many? Yeah, it's actually most of the people. Okay, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare. Okay, so, you know, جميل بوثينة كانوا عايشين في وادي القرى. أنا اليوم معروفة بالعلا. هذه قصة حب. So جميل and Buthaina were like two lovers who lived in the 7th century. And Jamil was a writer, he was a poet. So he used to write poetry about Buthaina to tell her about his love. But his poem, they got spread all around the region of Wadi al-Qura. And when the father of Buthaina learned that actually those poems were about his daughter, he took it as an insult, and he forbid actually their relation. So they never managed to be together. وبيقولوا جميل توفى من الحزن. So he passed away from sadness. So for me, this love story was quite interesting, you know, and I wanted to create a kind of metaphor of this love story, you know, by creating an art piece that I called the Mirage. I tried to create a piece that you could see in the desert in Al Ula 2 years ago. You can see from far, but I tried to match the color of the sand, you know, with the sculpture, a kind of metaphor of this fading love story that happened in between them. And you know, what is funny is that when, you know, after I released this project, after Desert X 2 years ago, I thank you to Ranim and Sultan for this, there was a guy, he was like telling me that he was so happy, مبسوط. أنا سمع قصة حب جاي من العالم العربي. like as we don't have. And I was like, for me, I was like, okay, I didn't get mad at him because maybe he was, I think, conditioned by what he heard or what he saw. But I think all of us, you know, as I ask you how many people you judge this morning, I think all of us, we have this stereotype on people that we don't know. And me, as a human being, I used to have some stereotype about a certain kind of people, North Korean people. So a few years ago, I had the privilege to visit the DMZ, بين كوريا الجنوبية وكوريا الشمالية. And the goal for me was to create a symbolic bridge in between the two countries. That's what I wanted to do, but at the end, this is not what happened. But still, alhamdulillah, we still did the project. So I remember the first time I came to the DMZ, I was surprised actually to see how South Korean people. I remember now I had like so many misconceptions on how South Korean people will perceive North Korean people, you know. And from the fence, unconsciously, before I arrived, I was thinking that, you know, the sky of North Korea will be gray, you know. So that was my perception, you know. And this day the sun was shining, you know. So, and I was like, this is so weird, you know. Like just by arriving to this place, I could see North Korea on the other side, and I thought it would be like gray, monotone with no sunlight. And subhanAllah, the same day like I came and there was like so much sun, and I was surprised also to see how people, our South Korean from different generations, wanted, you know, hoped that one day, you know, they wanted to see South Korea and North Korea reunited. You know, me looking at the fence, I start feeling that actually on the other side of the fence, they were like insane, like people like you and I, you know, with like dreams and hope, you know, emotions and needs, you know, and striving for the same basic human rights, you know, our desire for self-determination. I remember this woman, Kim Jae-hoon. She welcomed my team and I to her house, you know, and she told us about her story. Her late husband passed away years before, but her husband used to come from North Korea. He used to work in the south part of Korea, but he got stuck in South Korea when there was, like in 1953, so he couldn't go back. But he left his wife and daughter, but he was never able to get in touch with them or never go back, so he stayed in South Korea, and he married Kim Jae-hoon. And قالت لي كل يوم الأحد بتروح على الكنيسة وتدعي لك إن شاء الله كوريا الجنوبية والشمالية يرجعوا مع بعضهم, you know, like تكون متحدة. And I remember, you know, like this day I felt when she told me this story, like she hopes that one day like the two Korea will be reunited. I felt hope and I felt love and I felt also humanity. And I think this is what art brings us, you know. I think it brings our humanity back, you know. It brings, you know, when I talk about humanity, I think me as an artist, I work with Arabic script, and Arabic script, I believe this bring, you know, touches your soul. يعني يمس الروح قبل ما يوصل للعينين. So it means it touches your soul before it reaches your soul before it touches your eyes. And in my work, as you can see, I stopped, you know, writing the meaning of what I write because there is a poetry in it, and I don't want to break it. So I look at it as a music, you know, that you can understand. Sometimes you can hear a music from a different language, you like the melody, even if you don't understand the meaning. And when I want to talk about humanity, I remember this piece that I did in Jazair in Algeria, like back in 2014. I was painting, you know, I was reaching the 7th floor, and there is a woman, she opened her window and قالت لي يا ولدي تغديت, like, my son, did you have lunch? And I said, no, I will eat later, بتغدى بعدين. And خرجت لي like you know, like a plate with couscous جزائري مع الدجاج والمرقة. And yeah, I was on the scaffolding, but فتحت الشباك, she opened just the window and she gave me this food, you know. So she was waiting for me to reach, you know, like. So that was amazing, you know. Sorry. But you know, when you talk about humanity, لما تحكي عن إنسانية في إحساس، ممكن إحساس حب وفي خوف كمان. في 2012 كنت في باريس. I was in Paris in 2012, and there was this little town in south of Paris, بجنوب باريس، في قرية صغيرة اسمها مونخي. وحبوا يبنوا متحف but like an outdoor museum. And so they invited artists to come and paint, and each of the owner of the houses said, okay, I give my right for an artist to come and paint. And I came and I painted on the White House. You see like the one on the back right there. But لما الراجل شاف أنا قاعد نرسم بالعربي, like he got mad, like he got really upset, and he asked me to remove everything. So أنا كمان, I was like زعلان, and I left. But after 1 week, بعد أسبوع كلموني البلدية كلموني مرة ثانية قالوا لي okay, السيد تعال عنا, we have another wall that belonged to the city. Like, oh, I was like happy, so I came back, and it happened that actually the wall was right in front of this guy's house, you know. So كل يوم لما هو يخرج من بيته, you know, على وجهه, you know. So فكرت شوية, قلت ممكن نكتب على وجهك, you know. I thought let me switch from English to Arabic, سامحوني. So actually the wall that the city proposed me to paint was right in front of this guy's house. And so I thought like for a minute, should I write على وجهك, you know, on your face? But then I tried to be smarter, you know, and I wrote افتح قلبك, open your heart. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. You know, like once I was in تونس, جنوب تونس, مكان اسمه مدينة اسمها دوز, وفي واحد اسمه صالح سواعي. He was a camel breeder. We sat with him on a cafe, and we had this long conversation, and then he told me something actually like I kept in my mind. He said like sometime if you want to see, he says sometime you need somebody from outside to tell you how beautiful you are, you know. And I feel this in most of the places that I go. You know, most of the time when I reach a place, for example, منشية نصر, حي الزبالين, like in Egypt, people say ليش أنت جيت في like أخيب منطقة, you know, في القاهرة. But I think there is so much beauty in those places, and I enjoy spending time there. And so when we finish, you know, when I finish this conversation, just to go back to this guy like Sir Sly Sway, he told me like sometimes you need somebody from outside to tell you how beautiful you are. And then he said something before he left. قال لي بالعربي الإنسان الذي لا أثر له لا حياة له. A man who didn't leave a trace didn't have a life. You know, and I think as human beings, we all want to leave a trace behind us. You know, we all want to leave a legacy or something, you know, like tell our story maybe for the future generation. And me as an artist, this is what I try to do. You know, I try to travel the world, going to places, leaving my trace, discovering people, discovering culture, you know, and thinking that actually I'm leaving a trace in people's life. But the more I live it and the more I think of it, actually, it's the people who leave a trace in my life, you know. And today I believe, and certainly like that's a statement that I deeply believe. I think, you know, art is a most powerful, you know, tool to bring people, culture, and generation together. And talking about generation, I wouldn't be here today with you if it was not because of my daughter Maya. She's 11 and 1 month now, and she actually I quit my job as a business consultant the day before she was born in 2010, and she in a certain way inspired me to pursue my dream, and I don't regret it today. And there is many women who inspired me, like known and unknown. You know, my mom, my wife, my daughter, my sister, and other known and unknown women. And a few months ago, I wanted to pay an homage to, I think, all these women that I met in my life and who inspired me in a certain way. And I heard about the story of women in Nepal بعد الزلزال في 2015. Actually, they rebuilt their own houses. They took a leading role into the reconstruction of Nepal. So في منهم, like they got trained into construction work, when others actually they start creating, like producing their own earthquake resistant bricks. So in a little village like 3 hours away from Kathmandu, I met with a group of 12 women who have actually rebuilt the whole village, like 60, it was like 60 houses. So I spent actually 4 weeks, more than 4 weeks with them, creating an artwork that will connect each of the houses that they built, and in a certain way connecting their story as well. And there was this woman, Binita. Yeah, Binita, she fell in love with a guy from this village, Jiranchur. She's from like a Mustawa A'la, from a higher society class. And she moved to this little village of Jiranchur, and she used to tell me, like, she told me about the struggle she had in life and how she wanted to be an example for her daughter and the women of the community. And طول الوقت, like during the whole project, she used to say, I want to be an inspiration for the people of the village and for other women. I want them to tell I want to be like her, you know. And that was surprising, you know, to hear all those women, you know, because when you know, usually in your mind when you think of building a house, you have the image of a man. You know, let me finish, please, woman, don't be mad. Okay, when you think unconsciously, when you think of building a house, you see a man, right? Ranim, I'm right? Okay, unconsciously. Okay, but when you talk about building a home, Dima, what do you have? A woman. Okay? So if you have, imagine, so they build the house and the home, so they have like superpower. صح ولا؟ And me, I used to tell them, you know, all the time. I used to tell them like, والله حياتكم والقصة بتاعكم like روعة. And they used to say like, احنا عادي normal, you know, like we're not, I mean, there's nothing amazing about us. One, they're so strong, you know. Paolo, can we put the video? I just want to show you what we have done. That's the second one. Thank you, Polo. So yeah, so we spent like a few weeks working on this project, and آخر يوم لما صورنا, you know, like the video that you saw, at night, there was a huge storm that broke almost everything. So قلت أنا عادي, you know, كل وفان يبقى في ذكريات, you know, so. But what was amazing, all the women actually, they stand together and they just put back everything, you know, as it was, like in maybe 3 or 4 hours. And قالوا لي بعدين, like, this belongs to us, this is our piece, you know, we own it. And I think, you know, when you do project like that in the public space, me, I detach myself from them, but I feel the people from the community, they attach themselves to them, you know, they have this sense of ownership and this sense of pride. No. You know, some of the women, like actually one woman called Maya, she told us that the women in the community, they go into circle. You know, they go to school. At grade 10, they have to stop because the school fee are too expensive. And when I talk about school fee, I'm talking about $80 a year. And they have to stop, and then they get married. They bring a kid to this world, and then the kid go to grade 11, if he can, and then he get out of school. And when I created this piece, I don't know, like, I thought of this after I wanted to, there's one letter, you know, in the calligraphy that comes out of this circle, like kind of going toward the future and trying to break this circle. And alhamdulillah, you know, like with the project, we managed today, like to, there's actually, there's 2 girls who managed, I would say that, we launched this education program, you know, with my team, where like, we're putting back girls into school. So we already 1 girl who's starting university in Jan, and there's one of the girl who was supposed to work with us. You know, she was 16, and I was like surprised that she said, I want to work in the project. And I asked her, why? You know, why you're not in school? And she said, no, I want to work so I can pay for my school fee next year. So she's back in school. And so the whole point of this, you know, like the piece, all those art pieces disappear. You know what I mean? They're all ephemeral. It's just a pretext, you know, a pretext to come into this community and build something, you know, with them and for them. And like I said, you know, I think I leave a trace in their life, but actually they are the one who leave a trace in my life. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Are you happy to answer a few questions?
Yeah, of course, please.
Great.
I'm here for that.
Thank you very much. Fawzi, thank you so much for this incredible talk.
Thank you, Ali.
I was one of the very lucky ones to paint a building with Fawzi, and it was 7 floors high.
11.
11. And the forklift was swaying right
Exactly.
and left.
Yeah.
And I told him after 2 minutes, can I please go down? I have an important meeting. So anyway, I know the answer, but I want the public to know, how does funding happen for such public art? Because obviously when they commission you for a piece for a project in a museum or in a private space, we know how funding happens. But for such colossal projects of very large scale, or smaller ones?
There's actually 2 ways, you know, like I always have like in a drawer like some ideas that I want to do, and in the way I do it, for example, let's say tomorrow a city, a municipality commission me for an artwork, part of the fee that I have will go like for those personal projects, always, you know. For example, the project we did in Cairo was like a fully self-funded project. So it means I reach out to my collector, I say, look, this is what I want to do. I have like those art piece in my studio. Just be a patron, buy 1 piece, half a piece, like 2 pieces, and actually I got 2 collectors from the US, one from Hong Kong and one from France, who bought some art piece that finance the project. The collab, for example, I did with Louis Vuitton a few years ago, allowed me to do the project in Tunis, The Lost Walls, and to publish the book as well. The one in Nepal actually came totally in a different way. It was, I'm one of the creators of the Women Pavilion at Expo 2020 with Cartier. And so they approached me like more than a year and a half ago, asking me to paint the facade of the pavilion. And I said, this is cool to paint the facade, but there is no story to say, you know what I mean? And it's the Women Pavilion is about women empowerment. And I say, look, I have this project in my drawer about this woman in Nepal that I want to do. And so look, actually this is the right time. I'm just gonna go do it and link it with the pavilion. So the money the fee that I got to paint the pavilion, part of it was used to create this project. And it's also, you know, I sell books, I sell lithograph and art piece, and this is what allows me to survive and to feed my family, and actually the family of the 8 people in my team. So today we have 2 studios, one in Tunis and one in Dubai. You know, maybe one in Riyadh soon. I don't know, I'm joking. Let's see. Inshallah, why not? And yeah, and so the point is that it's always like trying to evolve, you know, and stay inspired and inspire other people. So mostly you self-fund? Yeah, most of the time, yeah. I find actually it's, you know, it's not like one way of doing it. I always try to find a way, you know. And I think people, they want to be part of something, you know what I mean? Let's say some people say you should do crowdfunding, you know, and I know it will work easily, but I like to keep it secret and just talk to a few people around me and say, guys, this is what I'm preparing, and so far it's working. Alhamdulillah.
I just wanted to mention إنه أمس منظمة اليونسكو أعلنت عن إدراج الخط العربي ضمن قائمتها للتراث الثقافي الغير مادي. وطبعا this brings us لأنه اليوم صراحة السيد is not just a friend وأخ وصديق وعزيز، بس فعليا اللي يعرف السيد عدل في السنين اللي راحت يعني حط الخط العربي على خارطة العالم بطريقة مختلفة وبسياق مختلف، وشد الانتباه في حقيقي قوة الخط العربي والحرف العربي في بناء المجتمعات. وزي ما يعني تفضل اليوم وورانا في هذه السلايدات، فحابة الصدق بالنيابة عن نفسي وعن كلنا والعالم العربي أجمعين إنه نشكرك على كل الأفرتس اللي سويتها وقدمتها في السنين اللي فاتت to do what you've done. صدق يعني حقيقي بعد الإعلان اللي صار أمس من المنظمة I think إنه أنت يعني خير واجهة مثل كثير طبعا منكم بس أنتم خير واجهة للعالم العربي.
شكرا. Thank you, Rani.
عمر.
Okay, I'm going to be the Antichrist here. You've worked beautifully with your artwork, so expressively on scale of desolated villages or Zabalin or whatever. And then I don't know what's going to happen with this work in 5, 6, 7 years' time. And the question here is that what happened in Riyadh, the Burj al Riyadh, the water town, you went from the poor villages people to the water people, well, the thing that supplies water. Where is the relativity between these two works when you're working usually for desolated villages?
I think when you put art in the public space, you democratize art, so you bring art to the people and not people to art like you do in a museum. So there is no, it's not made for one kind of people. I like to go to these kind of places because, actually, if it was not because of art, I would never go there. I would never, that's the story that I said at the beginning. People, when I come, if I say like, please give me a cup of water, like give me lunch, they will never welcome me. But because I spend time with them and I create art piece, I create this relationship. When I did the piece here in the water tank, it's the same, like you try to bring art as well to the public, and when I say to the public, it doesn't mean, there's no like a social class, you know what I mean? It's not because I go to Zabalin that I cannot come here. But for me, when I talked earlier, I talked about narrative, bringing new narrative. And I wanted to speak about this guy. I found this beautiful story when I painted the water tank. If you know Dindan, he was a poet from here, like from Riyadh, who actually wrote, he didn't write them. He knew them by heart because he didn't know how to read and write. Like, I think 3,000 poems. And there was this German guy who came in '94 in Saudi Arabia. He used to work for the Holland embassy. And when he finished his mission, he asked actually the king if he could stay. And he followed this guy, Dindan, like for 7 years. And actually, Sejlu, he recorded him and made a full transcript of all his poem, And for me, this was a way, to bring somebody that was illiterate and having his word like in one of the first Burj, in Riyadh, was for me like the beautiful story and how you honor people from each level, And that's how I look at it. I think art is for everyone and for the people, no matter where they come from, no matter what they believe or not, it's for everybody. That's how I look at it. This one, like with time, all the bamboo, they will get weak, they will be destroyed. But like I said, the point was now we created this education program in the village, and there is something, you cannot see it here, but there has this little workshop where they created the earthquake-resistant bricks. We now working on to create a tapestry workshop. So the women of the neighborhood of this village, actually, some of them do tapestry. And we're trying to create this workshop where they will be making their own tapestry, artistic tapestry, and then they can sustain themselves. So the artwork is always a pretext. You just come, you do something, and then, there's a saying that don't give a fish to somebody, teach him how to fish, and this is exactly what I'm trying to do. Nobody will hear from them. If it was not because of this art piece, nobody will know the woman of Geranchur. But me, what I found in those people was just amazing. If you want to go to Nepal, go visit those women because what they have done and what they do is amazing. Thank you.
Anybody else, or are we going to let the poor sick man go?
My question is that what was your favorite piece of artwork that you made?
Oh, that's a difficult question, this one. It's like you're asking a parent, like, who do you like? I mean, do you love your mom or your dad more? It's difficult. I think, each of my artwork has a special story, And also, like there is a moment that I cherish and I collect these moments. So each of them is different, Some of them I can speak about them for hours. Some of them is a little story. And for example, you said that you were coming from Melbourne. I'll tell you a short story. few years ago, I was painting in Melbourne in 2012, and there's a little girl, she came, and she, what I was painting, she took my hand, she said, I want to speak to you in private. And I said, okay. So we went, we sat on some stairs, and then she told me, I love nature, I love animals, and when I grow up, I want to be an artist like you. I was like, okay. And then she took, I used always have a pen like that. At this time, I remember I used to have a red pen, and she told me, I'm gonna write my name. She took a piece of paper, she wrote her name, Hadiyah, and she wrote the date, 19 October 2012, but she wrote 19 October 1200. And she told me, keep this piece of paper so you remember me. So I kept it. I put it in my wallet. Sorry, I forgot about it. And then maybe a few years after, I found the piece of paper again. And I was like, you know what? It will be funny to find Hadiyah. And what she became. So since 2016, every October 19, I used to post, please help me to find Hadiyah. And so every year. And then Hadiyah didn't pop up. We didn't find her. And then a few months ago, I had this interview with Anas Bouchash. He has like this thing called AB Talks. And I speak about, he asked me about Hadiyah. And the mother of the friend of Hadiyah, she's watching the show. And then she's like, this is our Hadiyah. And so now we're in touch with the Hadiyah. And Hadiyah, actually, she's not an artist, but she's an artist because you're an artist. Even if you don't make money out of it, you can still be an artist. That's something I want to say. And Hadiyah, actually, she loved to draw manga and she do anime and stuff. And so now we working on making a kind of small, either comic book or anime that tell the story, the little piece of paper. So, you know, it's a small wall I did in Melbourne. And you know what is funny? I don't even have a picture of it, you know, which is so bad. But I have a picture of me and Hadiyah in this little piece. So each artwork is linked with the moment, and that's what I cherish.
Hello. So we know about some of your inspiration. I would love to know, what do you do when you feel uninspired? Where do you bring the inspiration from?
So first you cry, you know. I don't think there is an inspiration box, you know, that you put your hand in and you take some inspiration. It's difficult. And most of the time people say, oh, you know, you sit by the beach, you know, at the sunset and you get inspired. I think inspiration is something that you need to feed, you know. This is something you always need to feed, you know, like, and when I say feed it, it's like by going to places, meeting new people, reading books, hearing new stuff, trying to change also like the way you look at the world and speaking with people also who don't think the way you think, you know. And there is a project that I didn't do yet, but it came out actually, was inspired by a fight that I had with a guy, you know, at a wedding. He told me actually at my sister-in-law's wedding, he told me that my project in Egypt was stupid, you know. And he had some other argument. And I said, okay. And then he gave me an idea for another project that hopefully we'll be able to do. So, you know, inspiration is not something, like I said, that comes like that. And when you don't have it, it's for an artist, it's difficult. And actually, you lose the inspiration when you're too comfortable. You know, when you just sit down and wait, and when work is easy. You know, when your work is easy, you feel comfortable and you lose the inspiration. And this is I always say that the comfort zone is I see it as a big circle. The more you stay in it, the more it grows, and the more like the distance between you and the exit is big. So this is my biggest challenge. Today, what I'm talking to you, this is my biggest challenge, getting out of the comfort zone, you know. So you see all this, you know, like people, they see always the end result, you know, which is cool, but sometimes there's so much stuff before that people don't even imagine, you know, how like the struggle and the pain and the doubt and the stress, and sometimes you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna give it up, you know. And then you have like people around you that always comfort you, such as my wife Dima, she's here. Yeah, and member of my team as well, you know, so this is how I look at it.
Time to say good evening. Any more questions?
No.
Can we all?
There's one more there.
There's one more.
Okay. It says actually, I didn't say that during the talk. You know, every work that I do is inspired, you know, by some quote or poetry. So I always try to make sure that I get the inspiration from quote that is relevant to the people of the neighborhood. So, for example, here in Nepal is a quote from a woman called Yogmaya Nepane. Yogmaya Nepane, she is actually one of the first Nepali feminists. and she fought for social justice, but she passed away in 1941. And for 70 years, she was erased from Nepali history until an anthropologist found out that Yogmaya was not actually a legend. She was real. She wrote some books. And so she brought her back to life. So this is one of her quotes that I use here. In Cairo, this one you want to know. This one says, there's no difference between you and I. The tears that you have in your eyes are like my own. That's what he said. You know. بالعربي طويلة. You know, like in Sita. You know. أما في مصر, for example, what I wrote was a Coptic bishop. It was a quote from a Coptic bishop who actually was originally from Alexandria, and he was living during the 4th century. And who قال بالعربي, I can say it, إن أراد أحد أن يبصر نور الشمس فإن عليه أن يمسح عينيه. So anyone who wants to see the sunlight clearly need to wipe his eyes first. So the project was called Perception. It was about, you know, removing, you know, the misconception that you have in your eyes. And sometimes I feel like some people in this world, I mean, in the course of their life, I feel they wrote this for me. So this guy, Saint Athanasius, he wrote that in the 4th century. And maybe he was saying, like, this guy, like, in few centuries will do a project in Cairo, you know. That's how I look at it. I think there's a connection, and I love that. And there's always something who wrote something about a subject that I want. Alhamdulillah, I mean, like, it's amazing when you dig in deep into that, you discover so much stuff, and this is what I love. And that's part of actually the process that people don't see, all the research. For example, you know, the project we did in Riyadh here, Dindan, was like that. When I found actually this, it's funny, I found the name of the professor was Professor Marcel. He has sorry, like if you watch the video, his last name is so difficult to say, but Professor Marcel. I emailed him and I said, do you have the Arabic version of the poem, the transcription that you have? And he was so happy actually to find that there was a guy who found this book, you know, and was reading this kind of poetry and found about Dindan. And then I met him in Riyadh. He came over doing the project, and he was talking about this guy, Abdallah Dindan, and how, you know, like, I tell him if Abdallah Dindan was still alive and see the water tower painted with this poetry, what would you think? He looked at me, he would just look at the tower and say, Alhamdulillah, you know, so, which is, yeah, that was cool. Egypt took us 1 year to plan it, but 3 weeks to make it. When I say 1 year, it's like convince, you know, going first, like, and then convincing the community, because there was like 52 facades to paint, and there was one guy to convince, which was the priest. So that was a long process, you know, and he's like a minister, you know, so you don't go and knock at his door and say, Abuna Samran, please, can you... So it took me 5 months to convince him, and then we just organized everything and we did it. I cannot say. Yeah, you know, maybe Ali will know. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.